Do you know what is the most important thing when you flee your home country? Perhaps it's money in your pocket. Oh boy. Do you know how fast money disappears from your pocket? When you become refugee and you are forced to flee, you become powerless. You become helpless, rightless, defenseless. Almost everyone along your journey tries to take advantage of you. Border patrol, customs officers, policemen, mafia, taxi cab drivers. Oh boy, taxi cab drivers, they are real vultures. You have money in your pocket, and 5 minutes later, it's gone. Well, perhaps it is the plan in your head what's important. Well, if you want to make God laugh, then tell him of your plans. And when you're fleeing, when you're running for your life, when you're on the run, God laughs really hard about your plans. Do not rely on your plans. They are not even they're not any better than a card house or a sandcastle. Well, perhaps it's your strength. If you're strong physically and mentally, that's important. Oh, a person can be broken by circumstances in second, and I've seen that happen. No matter how strong you are, no matter how strong you think you are, there are always bigger circumstances, bigger than you are. So what's the most important thing for the refugees then? It is faith. My story today is about faith. Howdy, howdy, everyone. Welcome to Inside Russia. This is the YouTube channel where my name is Konstantin, talk about usual Russia, and I am the unusual Russian. I tell the truth here. It's always the truth, common sense, and logic, and never BS, propaganda, or lies. And also there's plenty of human emotions, because I'm a human being. Today, I would like to tell you stories, and most likely there will be many emotions. Lately, I have done lots of videos and live streams about what's happening in Russia. It's a madhouse. Russia is demising. It's in every imaginable crisis you can imagine. I am a little tired of speaking of numbers, facts, figures. I'm tired of speaking of Russian economy. I would like to tell you of real life stories today. But before, let me tell you something about faith. Faith never comes along. There's no faith without hope. They go hand in hand. Russians who fled our country 2 years ago, we are all different. We come in different age, different weight, different professions, different life experience. Many, many differences. Too many to name. But we have one thing in common. We have faith and hope. And I want to tell you a few stories today. My latest project is Brain Drain, where we help Russian and Ukrainian refugees to immigrate to the USA. But that's not about it. That's different. It's just I was making a video about it a couple days ago, and I mentioned a few people who we are currently helping, and every person reminded me of a story, a very interesting story. There's a story behind every single guy, and it's so interesting, I've decided to tell you their stories. Some stories are interconnected and some are totally independent. I know all people of the stories personally. I have played a part in the lives of most of these people. Sometimes small part, sometimes bigger part, but I know them. I find these people and their stories fascinating, and I want to share the stories with you. Well, before I start, I want to tell you that I have plenty of pictures to illustrate my story and stories, but I've decided to make everyone anonymous because we are still not anywhere safe. We are still in danger. Some are more in danger, some are less, but we're in danger. And there will be no faces, no names, but there will be stories. And everything here is real, except for the names. Let me tell you, at first, let me start with the story of Tashkent Drinking Club. No, not Tashkent Breakfast Club. That story of Tashkent Breakfast Club you probably know. When I made the decision to flee Russia, I only had 36 hours to finish my life in Russia. And you really are not prepared for that. No one is. Okay, and my story started in Russia, but then it took shape at Tashkent Drinking Club. I learned a very interesting lesson. So listen to what I have to say about myself, my own experience. So I only had 36 hours in Russia to flee. To not just flee, but I knew that I wasn't going to come back. I had to finish my life in 36 hours. Just close your eyes and place yourself into my shoes back then. Now imagine you only have 36 hours to leave your country. You don't know where you're going to go. You don't know what you're going to do. You just have 36 hours. What do? Well, I'm sure many of you watched the story. I documented almost every single step how I was leaving Putin's Russia. If you haven't watched it, check it out. I think it's very interesting. The link, I'm gonna put it right here somewhere. So I got out of Russia. I'm not gonna tell you the details. Just know that I got out of Russia, and that's so much adrenaline as you leave. When leaving, when leaving, you have so much adrenaline in your body, in your blood, that your body shakes. You reach your destination, and it takes a couple days for you to come down, for adrenaline to start wearing off. And then when you finally come back to your normal state, a very dark feeling starts setting in. Not just one feeling, a cocktail of dark feelings, bad feelings. It becomes very scary, and it becomes hopeful, and you just don't feel good. I tasted it. I thought my life was over back then. I didn't know what I was going to do. I felt as if I stepped into a room completely dark, and I didn't know anything what was around me, and I didn't know where to take the next step. I didn't know which direction to move because it was darkness. And this is how it felt. That's where faith comes into play. Faith and hope. When you have faith, and some people have faith in God. I believe in God. I pray to God. I've grown up and I've spent all my life with God in my heart. Some people have faith in themselves. Some people have faith in others. Some people have faith in their families and friends. And it doesn't matter. You've got to have faith. It doesn't matter what kind of faith, but you gotta believe into something. And that gives you strength. That gives you hope. For a few days in Tashkent back in 2022 in September, I thought that my life was over. I was wandering in the center of Tashkent aimlessly, walking back and forth, hours. I was walking for the sake of walking, for the sake of keeping moving. And I was listening to music, loud. And when music stopped, thoughts would appear inside. They would start, clouding inside, and it was bad because I didn't want to think of anything. I didn't want those thoughts. They were very scary. They were very bad. So I sang. Do you think I like singing? I use it as comic relief in the live streams. And sometimes I look at the videos, how I sing here at Inside Russia, and I cringe. It's appalling, okay? I'm the worst singer in the world. But singing back then, from morning till night, kept me alive and sane. Zorba was dancing and Konstantin was singing. And I was not alone. I saw thousands of Russians around me, just in Tashkent, walking around just like I was. And it was really easy to spot Russian people. And no, it was not the way they dressed. And of course they dressed, Moscow and Tashkent are very different. People here wear dark, black, and they don't wear shorts, they wear pants. And of course, most of us coming from Russia, from Moscow, were wearing different colors, shorts, t-shirts, and backpacks, and no, not those bags. But no, that's not how I spotted my people. Not the way not the way by the color of their skin. We'll have fair skin because Russia does not have much sun, even in summers. I knew they were Russian by the way they looked. All I had to do is to look into their eyes. Have you ever seen a lost dog? They all look the same. They run around and they look into your eyes, and you see how sad the look, there's despair, there's hopelessness, a dog looking for the owner. And that was how they looked. That was the look in their eyes. Only we didn't lose our owners, we lost our lives. And we didn't know what to do. We were trying to find a way how to get back. Oh boy, it's been over 2 years, and I still feel emotional about that when I remember. That's just like I start thinking about it, and then things come up, So I was walking for a few days, and all of a sudden I was walking by a coffee shop, and I saw my people. I saw the refugees. They sat at the tables, and each table had one person. And some were listening to music, some were, working on the computers. One at each table. Because, hey, we didn't know anyone in the city. And then the Tashkent Breakfast Club, the support group idea, was born right then. And I clearly remember that minute. I figured, hey, we got to get together somehow in this coffee shop. And this is how Tashkent Breakfast Club was born. You might have heard the story. I'm not going to tell you more about it. I've told it many times here. What I've never told anyone is the story of Tashkent Drinking Club. You see, when I came up with this idea of inviting people to have breakfast, no one came. I was using a couple Telegram channels, and I was inviting everyone, oh, please come have breakfast. And then I figured, hey, I got to start telling people that that the breakfast would be on me. I would buy them coffee, tea, whatever, porridge, oatmeal. And then they started coming one by one, okay? But one evening I saw a message in a Telegram channel, a different one, not that the one was using, I just found one. And there was a message, come and join us for dinner. There's a bunch of Russian refugees. And then I did go, and it was about 7 p.m., and I found myself in a company of about 30 people, and all they were drinking. Drinking hard liquor, vodka, Jägermeister, things like that. And I don't drink, so I was like an exception among them. and everyone looked at me. It's like, why'd you come here? You don't drink. And so I spent a couple hours. I had dinner with them. I met everyone there, and they were in the same boat as I was, refugees. And I left. I said, look, I invite you to come and join me for breakfast. And they said, we saw your messages in invitations, but we drink all night and we're so hangover the next day, the next morning, that we just can't wake up. So, and I found it very strange. Okay. And then a few people later on, they managed to join my community, Tashkent Breakfast Club, and they started coming in for breakfast. But I realized on that a little bit later about that evening. At first, I couldn't understand why they were drinking. It's a city. It's where you don't know anyone. It's you gotta have all the energy, all your money, all your hope to keep on moving to do something. Instead, you just drink your life away. And I understood them. Those people at the Tashkent drinking club, and they met every single evening for months, okay? They simply tried to escape the reality. They tried to drink those feelings that we're all we having, the same feelings, the darkness, to drink it away. I at that time had inside Russia community. I had you. Many of you watched me back then. Many still watching. I'd like to thank you for that again. Every morning I woke up and went to a cafe to meet real people. I had offline community, and I worked on YouTube channel with frenzy because I just needed to do something. That was my way of escaping the harsh reality, tragic reality, and they were drinking. Many of them, I follow most of people who I met in Tashkent drinking club. Well, I call it drinking club. It wasn't really a drinking club. It was just a group of people meeting for every day for drinking sessions. Let me start my stories with the story of S. Again, that's a real person, okay? And I'm not gonna reveal his identity, not anyone's identity, but I really would like to talk about him. S did not look good. S was from Moscow, and he was one of the organizers of the drinking community. He drank so much. When a person drinks a lot, it shows on the face, and it showed on his face. He was very sad, and he had sad look in his eyes. His wife and child were in Moscow. Most of our families were in Moscow or in Russia, in our cities. He was completely alone, and he drank, drank, drank. His wife showed up with his daughter. They showed up, I remember, for New Year, Christmas, New Year, the holidays. And I figured the wife saw that something very wrong was going on with her husband. And she took daughter and they moved to Tashkent to reunite with their dead husband. And that guy stopped drinking just like that. He told me, on a February morning, he woke up, said, no more drinking, because I got to do something with my life. This is the first day of the rest of my life. And he actually started doing business. He did business. He was a businessman in Moscow. And he started doing what he knew the best. He started trading things at the marketplace, a local marketplace. He attended the breakfast club once in a while, but he got busy with work. Okay, and right now he has a quickly growing company, and he employs 60 people. He's a very, very busy man. He has a few projects going on at the same time. He's hired a director to run his business for him. And he's all right. He doesn't drink anymore. He drinks, once in a while, probably like most of us, once a week or something like that. But his wife is helping him with the business. Child is going to school, local school. Business is flourishing. He's one of the people I'm very proud of. Every time I think of him and I meet him, I smile. One of the first people I met in the Breakfast Club was R. Also a businessman from Russia. I remember it was the first day of the Breakfast Club where I really believed in it. I saw it happen. When inside of me it was born. It was born when 7 people showed up for the first time. You see, I invited everyone for breakfasts for a couple weeks. And it was only me, and I was eating breakfast myself. And then one person showed up, and another person showed up, and then another person showed up. And I remember it was Saturday. 7 people showed up. And it's kind of odd, when you advertise, you say, please come join me for breakfast at this place at this time. And when people show up, they don't know you, you're strangers. Well, imagine how it feels, right? So odd, awkward. But we all knew that we were of the same kind, so to speak. And I remember people sat down. It was a beautiful day. It was mid-October, about 20 degrees, 72 Fahrenheit, and it was wonderful, wonderful. And then I remember 7 men, all of us in our mid-40s, sitting at a large round table. And awkward silence. And then I introduced myself. I said, look, this is who I am. This is what my name is. And this is why I invited you to join me at this table. And this is my story. And I told them my story. I told them in details how I was running, how I was, my wife was taking me to airport, how I was leaving, going through border control and all of that. And I remember that everyone just went and they started talking all at once, simultaneously. And they started interrupting each other, and they started unloading their stories. It's like a floodgate was open, and then the emotions started like flowing out of them. And I remember that feeling was incredible. When you find yourself in a company people, you realize you're not alone. It's not the only one who having these feelings, but the other ones are having the same feelings too. Let me tell you, folks, you feel alive. You feel it's therapeutic, okay? So that's when I believed in the Tashkent Breakfast Club. We started making plans right away, believe it or not. So R was there. He was a businessman from Bashkiria. He left the company. He basically walked out of his life and out of his business. All of us did that. And he left his company in charge of one of his employees. And I remember he talked a lot. He had a lot of emotions. And he started looking for ways to open a company right away. Literally a few days after he arrived to Tashkent. And, he showed up a few days after our first meeting. And by the time he had already opened the company and he started doing business, he sold his first product. He was helping people to get their papers from Russia. As a lot of things, a lot of red tape is involved. You need to notify your diplomas, notarize your diplomas in Russia, and you can't do that. But he can. He hires a courier, delivery man, and delivers papers to, his company in Moscow. They do that, send it back, and then he found life here, I remember a few weeks later, his wife came to visit, absolutely gorgeous lady. She spoke very fluent German. And, she had some kind of German business going on. And both of them found a place for themselves in Tashkent. And they had They have a wonderful daughter. They didn't move, his family did not move to Tashkent. Instead, he spent 8 or 10 weeks in Tashkent, and in December, his wife and daughter left Russia permanently and they moved to Sri Lanka. Place for themselves in Tashkent. He's still residing, they are still residing in Sri Lanka. They like it very much. They've decided to make it permanent home for some time, not forever. And they're running a business. They're helping Russians to basically to find a place to live. They help them move. They are a company that advises on immigration to all over the world. The R knows everything about where to send Russians. He knows legislation of every country. He knows how difficult or easy it is to get a visa or permanent residency and things like that. I keep in touch with him. He's a good friend of mine now, and I even involved him into a project of myself and one of the Canadian non-profit organization run by a wonderful person, Meta Spencer, and he acted. We interviewed him, and he acted as a consultant at one of the things. So that's the story of R. He's happy now. Very active. He's living life after Russia. The next story is about M. A young guy showed up also in the first meeting, and he was very shy, very quiet, very... he didn't talk much at all. He still doesn't. He was in early 20s, but by that early age, he already was a professor at a Russian university, a very, very known Russian university. M is an expert in artificial intelligence and he's a computer programmer. Brilliant guy, absolutely brilliant. At that meeting, he didn't speak much, but he told us of his story. You know, as soon as the war started, well, the mobilization started, he got up, he got a few things, a backpack, and moved to Tashkent because he didn't know any other place. It was just luck that he landed in Tashkent. Absolutely alone. His family is in Moscow. As far as I know, they met a couple times, not in Russia, but in other places. He never missed Tashkent Breakfast Club meeting. He never missed breakfast. Well, he worked nights a lot, and then sometimes he would oversleep, but if he had free time, he would always show up. He still attends Tashkent Breakfast Club. He's a good friend of mine. He knows, he's the computer whiz in our group. He helps others with computers. Anything you need, anything, just come and see him. He got depressed along the way, big time. We found help for him. He's fine now. He's happy. He found friends at Tashkent Breakfast Club, and with a few people, he started a company. He's one of the shareholders, and he is in charge of all computer stuff. You know, the chief technical officer. That's the story of M. And then I'll tell you the next story about a lady, also M. She worked in Russia for Moscow government. Not the political part, but project management and HR. And when this war started, she obviously did not support it. She stood against it. In the first days, it was okay. No one really knew what was going on. And it was still okay to speak up your emotions, your thoughts, your feelings. And she did. And then she said that in a few days, in a couple weeks, in March, the war started in February, but in March, her boss, supervisor, approached her and said, you know what? We know you stand on this, what's going on right now, but you can't really be silent. If you want to keep on working here, you have to support it publicly. You have to make a statement. And she said, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I said, well, then most likely that's you can't work here. And she said that around her, most people publicly supported the war, made statements. Most of them did not support inside, but to keep their jobs, they stood up and said, well, I support. And she didn't. And she just quit. She packed up. She wasn't fired. She quit. Back then, they weren't firing for that, not agreeing publicly with Putin in the state. So she quit and she moved to Tashkent. She's an incredible expert in creating processes, fixing, upgrading, normalizing business processes in the company. And she started a business. She showed up in one of the breakfast clubs. She didn't talk much. She was a little nervous, a little shy. Um, we all liked her. She was a very nice person right away, you know. She didn't come and join us for a couple weeks and then introduced herself as a person who took psychology classes. And about November, it started hitting us hard, very hard. A thing was called culture shock. I knew it was coming. So I reached out to M and I asked her, I said, could you please help us out? Do you know anything about culture shock? And it turns out she did. She took classes by coincidence, how to help people to go through it. And we organized a lecture, and she was the first speaker. And I remember the turnout there were like 45 people. We packed the cafe, and everyone found what she said so useful. She has become a part of the breakfast club along the way. She got depressed. A lot of people got depressed. Once you just imagine again, place yourself into our shoes. You walked away from your life. Your family is still in Russia. Your kids are still in Russia. You don't know when you're gonna see them. The most likely they come to see you once a month, and it's expensive. It's not easy. And then you see them, and that's the only light in your life. They go back, darkness comes back. And then on top of that, the government started going after us. They saw what was going on, the exodus from Russia, and they started going after us softly at first. They started creating laws that made our lives a little more difficult. For example, I remember one thing that concerned most of us was losing tax residency in Russia. Once you lose tax residency, if you sell your car, apartment, you pay 30% tax. And M had an apartment in Moscow, and she lost her job here in Uzbekistan. She found a job, but then she lost it. And she was very depressed. I remember we were trying to help her. We would bring her to breakfast clubs. We would drive her back. We offered help. We offered even money, like loans, because she was running out of money. And then she was thinking of coming back to Russia, but then she said no. She found a job immediately, and the rest is history. She was employed for a year. She made connections, networked here in Uzbekistan. She quit the job, a very good corporate job, one of the biggest companies here in Uzbekistan. And she started, they hired her as HR head. And then the owner of the company made her the CEO of the company. So she lasted there for over a year, and then she quit. And now she runs her own business, consulting business, and she's very reputable already in Uzbekistan. And that is, she's happy. She even bought a horse. She loves horses. Anyway, that's the story of M. There's a family of Moscow, from Moscow, and I would say the family F. They wanted to go to the United States of America. They all spoke English, and they decided to leave Russia after Russia invaded Ukraine, right after. They did not reach the United States of America. You know, it's a very difficult journey to get to America legally. It's really hard to get there illegally. It's even harder to get to the USA legally. For some reason unknown to me, the American authorities have made it easier for people to sneak into the country than to actually come in a legal, in the right way. But anyway. So they wanted to somehow get to the USA, and they decided to go through Brazil. Why, I don't really know, but I clearly remember. And somehow they ended up in Sao Paulo. They were going to spend some time in Sao Paulo. That's a large Brazilian city. And they loved it in Sao Paulo so much that they decided to stay there permanently. I don't know, it's far away from us. I just know what happened. I don't know the story in details, but it's been 2.5 years. The father, well, the man who I've heard of, he's opened his cafe in Sao Paulo. He enjoys being a barista. He makes coffee by himself, a few tables. And they all learn how to speak Portuguese, and they just having time of their lives. They love it there. They've they've given up their plans to move to the USA, and then they've decided to live in Brazil, and they got permanent residency of Brazil. Now they are on the way to becoming citizens. And then the story of medical doctor AR. He's quite the guy. I even made a live stream or even a couple about him. He showed up in November of 2022, and he had come before we all arrived to the cafe where we met every morning. He was waiting for us. And I remember we introduced, two or three people of us came in, and we introduced ourselves, and he did. And he started asking questions right away. And the first question was, how do I become a tester, computer tester? And we had a senior developer right there. And developer explained them the path to becoming tester. And I asked him, like, why do you need to be tester for? Oh, I want to go to the United States, to the USA, and I don't know any other ways how to get there. So I become a tester, I get like a work visa, and the developer said, well, you don't really disappoint you. I hate to disappoint you, but you're not going to do that by being a tester. The computer programmer, yes, perhaps, but not a tester. And he seemed disappointed, said, oh, I got to think of something else. He seemed sad, and I asked him, I said, what do you do in life? Like, what's your occupation? Oh, I'm a neurosurgeon. I do surgeries of brains. And we were like, what? Anyway, the story of AR, he drove with his wife all the way from one of the Russian cities to Tashkent. He was literally performing a surgery when he heard of the mobilization, and his shift was over. He went to the supervisor, he quit, he went home, packed up his stuff, and drove off with his wife. Just like that. It's an amazing story. It took them a few days to reach Uzbekistan. It was really tough. for everyone. The queues at the border control were 40 miles long. You had to wait for days to cross Russia's border. So they did. They ended up in Tashkent, and one of the first days he came to Tashkent Breakfast Club. You know, I really took his case personally and close, and some of you might remember I talked a lot about him. The guy's become my friend, and I reached out to you, to the community, saying, "Hey, look, how can you help us? We have a brain surgeon here, and he wants to live in the United States and work, and he's ready to take the exam, the board exam, and that's what he wants to do. He likes medicine. He likes to be a doctor." So his goal was Canada, the USA, and one of the people, it was a miracle, God's wonder. One of the people here at the community responded via email, said, "Look, here's a friend of mine who I met in London, the head of one of the largest hospitals in Tashkent, a personal friend. I told him that you'll be calling, and he gave his mobile telephone number. So the brain surgeon called him up, and that guy could not believe that this was possible. He did not believe. So he wanted to see the brain surgeon. AR met him, and he showed resume, diplomas, and everything. And he told that he studied in Switzerland. He had some kind of course, and he was hired just like that. He ended up working at the hospital, a very famous hospital here, for a year. Things didn't work out. He quit. He's been working different jobs in hospitals and medical clinics. And also, in parallel, he's become data analyst. He's trying to launch a new career, a parallel career. So, meanwhile, his wife got pregnant when they were leaving Russia. So they got here, and she was already pregnant. And she came back. She returned to Russia to have a baby. And it's really difficult situation for them financially. And, just in general, she has more support in Russia. Her parents are helping her. So the baby and the wife are in Russia, and AR is here. So very, very tough situation. This is his story. He's coping with it. He's living. He's been part of our community. He's my friend. And that is his story. I remember when he came in. I remember many people came in with questions. Now we have been living in Tashkent for over a couple years now, and this live stream is becoming very long. I apologize, and moderators and everyone. Most likely, we're not gonna do live stream chat because we won't have time for that. I still have a few stories to tell. Well, so anyway. People were fresh off the boat. No one knew anything about Uzbekistan, about Tashkent. The thing is, I lived here for 2 years, 10 years prior, from 2010 to 2012. And Uzbekistan was a very familiar place. Tashkent was my home for a couple years, okay? So when I came here, I knew much about people, about how to do business here. I did business there. I still have... By the way, I still have a couple videos where I explained 4 or 5 years ago. I made this video, so I explained how I lived and how I did business in Uzbekistan. I'm gonna put a link right here. Check them out. Very old videos, one of my first ones. So, but anyway, in details, I explained how I lived here back then. So, and I basically knew my way around Tashkent, and one of the goals for me was to get people together and answer questions, help them to navigate this life, help them to settle here, to set themselves up in this society, okay? And then I answered many questions. Now I don't, because everyone knows, everyone has been settled, okay? But then, I don't know if you ever visited a synagogue. I wanted to build Tashkent Breakfast Club as a synagogue. Um, I have visited synagogue a couple times. I'm not Jewish, but I have lots of friends, and I was invited for business meeting. But when I got there, I was amazed. Synagogue is not just a church; it's a social gathering place. That's where Jewish families get together and basically spend time there. You can eat there. You can organize businesses there. You can network there. Your children can find teachers there. They usually, like in Moscow, in synagogue in Marina Rosia, okay, there were so many activities going on. Everyone knew each other because they would come in the mornings and pray. You see, Tashkent Breakfast Club is modeled after synagogue. Only we don't come to pray in the mornings, but to have oatmeal and coffee or tea to have breakfast because we're not Jewish. Well, some of us are, but most aren't. So, and that's how it worked. Just like in synagogue, you have a question or you need something, you go and ask people and they help you. And that was Tashkent Breakfast Club. For example, one day I remember a lady came in with 2 suitcases and she said, "Well, I heard about you, word of mouth. Someone told me in Moscow that you meet for breakfasts, and here I am. I just off the plane. I need an apartment. I need this. I need to open a bank account." And we had a real estate agent sitting right there at the breakfast. We had a guy who had just opened an account for himself, and by the time she was done with breakfast, she was all set with everything she needed. She had found an apartment. Well, we helped to find an apartment, at least temporary for her. And then she went to, it's in Tashkent, it takes telephone calls. Okay, you don't need to see people, you don't need to sign agreements or anything like that. It's just a phone call. Hey, how are you? How is your family? How are the kids? How is those wife? Okay, so listen, I need help. Do you have an apartment? I don't, but a person I know, my cousin, his sister-in-law, she knows. Oh yeah, hang on. And then all of a sudden, someone calls you. Oh, were you looking for an apartment? I have one. That's how it works in Tashkent. Okay, and that's exactly what we did. We answered questions. We helped. Um, it was pretty incredible time. Okay, so the next story is about an engineer. A. His name is A. He's an older guy in his early 50s. Speaks little and slowly. He taught others engineering and he built things. He is a construction engineer. His expertise is buildings rigidity, to make sure the buildings don't fall down, that they're rigid, they're strong enough. He was a dean of a university in Moscow. He has 2 older sons, and they all moved with him, and sons moved to Tashkent. Wife stayed in Moscow, as far as I know. Right now, she's close to moving to Tashkent permanently. A very proper guy. The guy who follows every single dot, every single word in the instruction book. He follows every single rule and he teaches others to do so. He takes his work very seriously, and I mean it is serious stuff because a lot of safety depends on him. Okay, he has been struggling. He has been living in Tashkent for 2.5 years, and he has been struggling because people here. I mean, he had no problem getting jobs, and he's an executive. But people here, they cut corners everywhere, and they also cut corners constructing buildings, and he hates that. He thinks it's absolutely wrong. he takes responsibility for his work, and he said every single time the supervisors try to force him to cut corners and to do his work not proper way, drives him nuts. So in 3 years, in 2 years he's changed 3 jobs. Right now he's looking for another job. Very good guy, very reliable guy. His goal is to move to the USA and build a new life. He's very concerned about his age. In my opinion, if he ever gets to the USA, he'll be very successful in what he does. Another story is about a senior computer programmer. He works in San Francisco remotely. He's a very, very skilled programmer. Well, actually, he's lead project manager or something like that. So he's like in the higher up category of programmers. I met him during my first days in Tashkent. I was trying to network and I was answering question about how to get to nearby mountains. And it was Sunday, and someone said, "Oh, let's go to the mountains." Not too far from Tashkent. It's about 90-minute drive. You can take a cab for all day, and that's gonna cost you $50, something like that, $70 perhaps. So three of us got together, and we spent an entire day. A driver took us to the nearby mountains and brought us back. And I remember that guy. It was the first time in his life that he saw the mountains, high mountains. 43 years old, had not seen mountains, and he was absolutely fascinated by them. He said that he was thinking of going to Turkey and using Tashkent as a transit. But when he saw the mountains, he was so fascinated. Said, "You know what? I'm staying in Tashkent. This is it. I love this place." Moreover, he started inquiring about renting a house in nearby village, mountainous village. He said, "All I need is electricity and internet. If they have it, I'm gonna live here. I'm gonna move from Tashkent to this place, and every morning I'm gonna go. I'm gonna take a ride to the top of the mountain in a gondola and work on top of the mountain." I love it so much. He's been a part of the community on and off. He's not an active part of Tashkent Breakfast Club. He rarely shows up. But I saw him. I ran into him. He has a child, a daughter. I think at the time she was 4 years old, and a wife. And he was feeling very sad because he missed them a lot. And I remember I ran into a cafe into him, and he was holding hand of a little girl, his daughter, and the wife was right next to him. And I actually made a community post sometimes in November of 2022. It's still out there. I wrote a little story how I ran into this guy and I saw literally rays of light coming out of his eyes. I have not seen. If I could take that happiness that was around him and somehow liquefy it, I would put it in the bottles and I would store it. In the dark days, I would take a little drop, and I'm pretty sure it would make me feel good because he was so happy. But the little girl was standing right next to him. Oh boy, you just could feel love around these folks. It was one of the most moving moments in my life. And I kid you not, that was absolutely great. He's, as far as I know, he's still in Tashkent, in Uzbekistan. He's back and forth. He's renting two places. He can afford it. He goes to the mountains often. So that's the story of this senior computer programmer. Graphic designer. Name is Kay. Brilliant graphic designer from St. Petersburg. One of the people who are very intellectual and very cultured. He speaks in a very unusual way, very cultured way. told us the story. He found the Breakfast Club about 1 year after we, I was going to say incorporated. We're not official. We're not a company. We're just a bunch of people getting together for breakfast. Now there's over 1,000 of us, okay, and we're growing. The guy found us in the summer of 2023, about 9 months after we started Tashkent Breakfast Club. And he kept on thinking every single time he came to, he said, look, 9 months, I was stuck by myself, missed my dogs, missed my wife. I didn't have anyone. I'm a graphic designer. All I do is sit in front of a computer and design and create. And it's so lonely. I felt alone until I found you, and you're so great. And he kept on, thanking us and thanking us time and time again. It was incredible. Brilliant designer. He designs magazines, and he's in charge of the design of a yacht magazine that is published in Dubai. Now, well, that's what he's did here, in the first months. But now he's so good that people started coming to him and asking to design things for them. Okay, now he's designing products, labels, and packages for a large wine company, winery here in Tashkent. He has two or three large customers. He's very busy, but he still attends breakfast almost every single morning. Fantastic guy. He's happy. He's the only problem is his wife and dogs. They don't have kids. He has a kid from a previous marriage, and he has family in the United States of America, in Minnesota. He said that he has found, how do I say that? Camaraderie? Perhaps that's the right word in English. He's found support in our group. And that's exactly why Tashkent Breakfast Club was created. I thought it this way, to create the support group. But we met Kay's wife many times. She comes over once in a while. And he's happy. He has been happy for the last few weeks because she's moving in to Tashkent permanently along with her two dogs. That's gonna make my friend happy. That's his story. And then the story of a very young couple. They are in their mid-20s. They hardly talk. They're on the shy side. Great guy and girl. Just great people. They came from central Russia. They are not coming from large families. As far as I know, they have very few relatives. They are on their own, basically, in this life. And the guy is a computer whiz, another one. He also helps everyone with everything computer. He designs computer games. He designed a mobile app, a computer game, and he's trying to sell it now. Also looking for a job, told me what kind of job he wants to. And I like him so much, I want to try to do something with him. For example, do a drop shipping trading and things like that, His wife, they're both college graduates. All people here are with higher education. I don't know anyone without higher education, okay? His wife is an engineer, safety production, something like that. She's pretty much fresh out of college. She only has 1 year of work experience. They're like, early mid-20s, early to mid-20s. I'm very glad that they came. They never miss a breakfast. They don't eat much. They're very thin. And they're just great company. When they walk in, they kind of light up the place with their presence. They want to go to the United States, to move to America. You know, out of all countries that people want to go further to, the USA is number one because every one of us still treats it as the land of opportunity where everyone has a chance, where everyone is created equal. Some people decided to go to Europe. We have a couple people, well, I'll tell a little bit later about them. Spain, Serbia. One guy moved to Australia. But it's everyone has the United States of America on their mind. By the way, a young couple, probably late 20s, tattooed all over. Great guys, guy and girl. The guy is computer programmer. The girl, I don't really know what she does. I don't remember. But they moved from Moscow to Phuket, Thailand. It's an island in Thailand. They spent there 1 year. Oh no, pardon me. No. Not Thailand. Sri Lanka. That was another couple from Sri Lanka. They didn't like it there. They ran from Sri Lanka. When I told you about R, him and his family moved to Sri Lanka. They are loving it, absolutely loving it. They love everything about it. I talk to him frequently. The other couple, they didn't like it. They didn't like food. They didn't like how people were behaving. They didn't like the culture. Well, pretty much didn't like anything. So they moved to Tashkent. They spent about 1 year with us in Tashkent. They were frequent visitors of breakfast. And at the end, they moved to Serbia. And in Serbia, they love it. This is where they found their place, in Serbia. They're absolutely happy. So that's their story. Like I said a little earlier, I was in a better position than most of Russian escapees because I had something to escape to. And that something was the community of Inside Russia. You. And I would like to thank you once again. I thank in every single stream. But I think that I'll be doing it for as long as I keep on live streaming. Thank you so very much. I've received tremendous amount of support in these years. Without you, my life would have been so much more difficult. I would not be able to do what I have been doing. I would be struggling mentally, physically, financially, and I would not be able to help others because I would simply be preoccupied with other things. So thank you, friends. Thank you for all your love, for all prayers, for good words, for emails, for watching the videos. Thank you so much. Thank you for buying me coffees. Thank you for Patreon. Thank you for PayPal. This has been a very life-changing experience. And thank you, moderators, for keeping this community safe and pleasant place. Then, okay, get back to the story. A story of a businessman. Let's call him K, another K. He's from St. Petersburg. Very active guy. He owned a shipping company in St. Petersburg. Well-to-do, fairly well-to-do. Came here and he's a very extroverted person. And then he did not find anyone here for a while. He didn't know anyone in Uzbekistan and Tashkent. And he was just basically sitting home and walked a lot every single day. Would get out of his apartment and walked for hours. And then he found us and he joined. Oh boy, the guy was a riot. Jokes, good mood always, a positive outlook for life, drinking, organizing drinking evenings, organizing mountain trips. He was always up for anything, he just didn't like boredom. He anyway, he spent 1 year in Tashkent and he moved on. He moved to Spain. Right now, he's residing in Spain. He pretty much does the same thing. He complains that he has not been able to find a community like Tashkent Breakfast Club, where he lives in a Spanish city. But he enjoys life there. He likes the climate. He likes the sea. He likes people. He likes, he likes Spain. And that's his story. Another story is about a couple, well, a family, very famous people in Russia. I'm not gonna tell you, I'm not even going to hint who they are, because they can be recognized by people who know Russia and know St. Petersburg. But they are from St. Petersburg. Middle-aged couple, fantastic people, very active, have two wonderful kids, little kids. Came here with one outlook, one track minded business, how to make money. Both, the husband and wife. They're very business oriented. Started a company setting up electric charging stations all over Uzbekistan. We had so much fun together, made friends, very outgoing people, like to drink socially, like going out and sing karaoke. I don't sing karaoke. Natasha does. She likes that. Got us together, invited us over their house. We would buy crawfish and share beer and crawfish there. And we've had unforgettable times together. They liked Uzbekistan a lot, but they decided to move to Spain also because air air of a low quality, especially in the wintertime. It's very polluted, and they had allergies. Another story is of a famous person, deputy dean of Russia's most famous university. Yes, a guy of a high caliber. He came to Uzbekistan and he spent year and a half here. He became the member of Tashkent Breakfast Club, but he started his own group and he was oriented to the culture of Uzbekistan and he was organizing cultural events here. A guy who was a real pleasure to speak with, intellectually pleasing, incredible guy. Year and a half, he worked at the local university. He was a professor there. He was teaching, and his contract expired, and he moved to Tel Aviv. I think he's teaching at one of the universities there right now. Another professor, that's an interesting story. One morning, out of the blue, this older guy shows up. And then, there's a customs in the Tashkent Breakfast Club. We introduce, when a person shows up for the first time, introduces himself or herself. And then he introduced himself, professor of math at May, Moskovsky Energetic Institute. That's where all my colleagues back in Moscow studied and graduated from, because that's one of two schools in Russia that teaches energy engineers. All who build power plants, they come from that university. And then he ended up knowing a lot of my colleagues. They used to be his students in the past. that was quite a coincidence. He came to Tashkent Breakfast Club. He was a permanent member for a couple months, and he had this burning desire to move to Israel. He was Jewish, and all of a sudden, just like that, we helped him. There was another Jewish guy, and he was an expert on how to repatriate to Israel if you're Jewish. So basically, we set him up, the professor up with contacts in Israel, and they helped him to step through step until he went to Tel Aviv, and I think he lives in Tel Aviv now. So that's another person. I have met over 1,000 people at Tashkent Breakfast Club, and here in Uzbekistan, not necessarily in our breakfast club, but all over, over 1,000 people. And I've met everyone personally. There are so many more stories other than I've just told you right now. It's just, I could be talking about them for hours. Some I know more, some I know less, some I know better. I hope you have enjoyed the stories that I've told you. I just wanted to tell you the stories of real people and the real stories of what has happened to us after we have left. And then at the end is my story. Again, I've said it before, I've described it before, but perhaps you are watching this for the first time. I had 36 hours to leave Russia to Uzbekistan. Why Uzbekistan? I knew this place. Like I said, I lived here for 2 years. I knew people, I knew how to do business, I knew culture, I knew traditions and customs and everything. I have friends here, and this is how I ended up in Tashkent. I started Tashkent Breakfast Club, and for 11 months after, I lived here by myself. I rented this large apartment I am right now. I've set up a studio, and I figured that a lot of people would follow me, leave in Russia because of mobilization, because of the war. My family, distant family, my friends perhaps, I wanted to have a place for everyone. I wanted to establish a base here. Well, guess what? No one came. I was here for 11 months by myself. It was a very, very hard time. My family supported me. If not for my wife, I probably would die of sadness. It was you who have supported me. Thank you so much. My kids, I always thought of my children, my mom. That's, I had faith. I had faith in God. And that faith was guiding me. Okay. I reunited with my family 11 months after I fled Russia. And that was absolute greatest time of my life. I was so happy. I didn't need anything else. Just knowing that my children and my wife right next to me, folks, you gotta, to understand the extent of happiness, you gotta fall so low to get back up again. Okay. You can only, get the level of this happiness in comparison. Everything was great, but first 11 months were hell. I had faith and I had support. And then faith gives you strength. Faith gives you hope. I've seen a lot of people over 2.5 years who didn't have faith. And guess what? They returned to Russia. They tried, but they couldn't bear the weight. Once you leave, once you step into this unknown life, once you start building from start at age of 46 from scratch, okay, and you're thinking, how the hell did I get here? There's so much weight on your shoulders. You feel it physically. Guess what? Faith helps you. It gives you strength. Perhaps it doesn't give you strength, but it lifts up the weight of your shoulders. Faith gives you hope. Without faith, without hope, you just break down and die. Not necessarily physically, but mentally. You give up. And giving up is just like dying in our case, and you just say, oh, forget it, I couldn't do it. You go back to the old country and you're done. And this has been my story. Remember, faith is the most important thing. Always have faith. Faith will guide you through anything. It will give you hope. It will give you strength. It will give you light at the end of the tunnel. Thank you so very much. Friends, it's been a very long message. I apologize. I would like to invite everyone to pray along with me. Today is a special prayer. I would like to pray for Ukraine as usual and for those who are fleeing their homes right now for any reason. Not just Ukrainians, Russians, just anyone. So let's do it. I invite everyone to finish this live stream with a prayer. Dear Lord Jesus Christ, thank you so very much for giving us this day. Thank you for putting food on our tables and roofs over our heads. Thank you for our families. Thank you for the loved ones who you surround us with. Please give us wisdom to keep the skies above our children's heads safe and peaceful. Give us wisdom to raise our children in the way that they will never be engaged in any wars when they grow up and make this world a better place. For now, please keep our children healthy and safe. Dear Lord, please help Ukraine. Stop the bloodshed and bring people peace. Reach out and touch the hearts and souls of those who are responsible and in charge and capable of making decisions. Stop the bloodshed. Have them wake up, fill their hearts with love. Have them remember that they're human beings still, and have them make the decision to stop the bloodshed. Please help every single Ukrainian who has been affected by this terrible tragedy. Answer their prayers, make their wishes come true. Dear Lord, please help my country, Russia, assemble. Take your strongest angels with sharpest swords and assemble them into a large, strong army led by Saint Michael. Send that army to earth to get rid of the demons who have hijacked my country, who we know by their names and by their faces. Have your angels help good Russians run the country to make it peaceful, loving, and respecting. Dear Lord, I would like to ask you to help everyone who is traveling. Send them safe travels. Who is in danger, send safety. Please help single mothers and fathers who are struggling, trying to make ends meet, raising their children. Please send them help. Please help all who are hungry, sick, cold, homeless, jobless, depressed, not feeling well about their lives, losing faith, losing hope, feeling abandoned, feeling alone and left. Please reach out and touch their hearts, fill the hearts with love, and show them that they're not alone, that you are right next to them, you love them, you care about them, you have not abandoned them. Please help everyone in need right now. And dear Lord, I would like to ask you to help every single person in this world who is running from danger, fleeing, seeking new life, seeking new home. I'm asking for all refugees, no matter where they are from or where they are going. Please help them, send good people, and send support their way. Thank you so much, dear Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. Friends, I would like to remind you that you're absolutely awesome and you rock. Thank you for coming. Please come back tomorrow. There will be Friday Crazy News Update as usual. And thank you for watching this very personal message. Carthago delenda est.